Welcome! This tutorial is the first part of our small series on group reservations. Today I'm going to show you how to create and manage group reservations in protel, especially how to allocate rooms to a group and how to change names. In the second part of this tutorial, you will see how to use a joint account for the group to administer all the group's revenues. Group reservations are a good idea whenever you want to edit data for several reservations at once. The best way to reserve several rooms at once is to use the room type plan, which I'm going to open by clicking the button in the toolbar. By the way, if you are not familiar with the room type plan, you should first see the tutorial on reserving rooms using the room type plan. Remember, the middle of the room type plan shows us the number of available rooms in each individual room type. Now let's set the stage for today's tutorial. Mr. Michael Miller is arranging a trip for his bowling club. He asks us to reserve 4 standard twin rooms for him and his 3 friends from the 5th to the 8th of February 2008. I glance at the room type plan and see that we have enough rooms of this type available. Luckily, I can simultaneously reserve several rooms of the same type in this plan. I simply overwrite the default value of 1 up here in the first column with a new value, in this case 4. Next, I hold down the left mouse key and drag the reservation out over the desired time frame. protel now shows us the selected time frame as a gray marking. And then press Enter to call up the reservation dialog in order to complete the reservation. When entering group reservations, we should always enter the group's name first. It's a good idea to pick a name that contains an abbreviated customer name and the arrival date. Mr. Miller made the reservations and his group is arriving on the 5th of February. So we'll call the group MIL 050208. Once I exit the field, protel searches our database and tells us that no data records were found for this name. So I click Yes to have protel create a new profile and immediately display it. You already know what a guest profile is. However, this profile is something different. Its sole purpose is to link together the reservations of our 4 group members so we can manage their data and balance their accounts centrally. That's why we call it Group Master. Group Masters are only used one time, and so once all the group's liabilities have been settled, the Group Master is no longer needed. That's why we tell protel to delete the Group Master as soon as possible, simply by placing a checkmark in front of Delete Profile as soon as possible. From now on, the Group Master will control every aspect of managing the group at our hotel. We will be seeing it again soon, in other words. For now, though, let's click OK to return to the reservation dialog. Do you see? protel has entered the group's name in the name field. Make a mental note of this fact. We'll be coming back to it later on. Our reservation data is shown in the central portion of the window. Remember? We reserved 4 standard twin rooms from the 5th to the 8th of February. Now we can enter more details on our reservation in the lower portion of the window. Let's focus on a few key pieces of information, such as the market and the source. Note that, like in many other areas of protel, each hotel can decide for itself which fields are mandatory and have to be completed. To finish, I click OK to confirm my entries and close out the reservation. Now protel asks us whether we want to bill all the revenues in this reservation to a single shared account. For this scenario, though, a shared account is not required. The bowling club members plan to pay themselves. So I click No to not create a group invoice. Next, we need to allocate rooms to our group members. This means that once again we'll be using the Group Master. What's the fastest way to find it? Well, There are different ways, but this time we're using the reservation list. I click the reservations button in the protel toolbar and then open the reservations dialog. Here I enter the group name or the first letters of the group name in the source travel agent company group field, and then press enter to display the reservation list. We can see here our group reservation for Mr. Miller and his friends, as well as the group master with the same name. I right-click the group master to open the Navigator, and from the Navigator I can click the Group Members button to open a dialog in which I can edit our group's data. I click the Room Allocation button here to open the Room Allocation dialog. Before I can allocate individual rooms though, I'll have to split our group reservation up into several individual reservations. This is a fairly easy thing to do. I just activate Split Reservation mode, select our reservation and then click the Execute Split button. I want to split the entire reservation, so I enter the total number of reserved rooms, in this case 4, and confirm my selection. And click Yes when prompted. Protel has now split our group's reservations for 4 rooms into 4 individual reservations. It is now easy to allocate rooms to them. First, I select Multiple Assignment mode, select all the reservations, and then click the Available Rooms button. In the right-hand side of the dialog, Protel provides me with a preliminary list of rooms that, if I wanted, I could accept by clicking the Assign button. Of course, it would be nicer for all the group members to be staying on the same floor. So I changed the room selection and then click the Assign button to confirm my selection. The result is shown in the left-hand side of the window. The result looks great. So I click OK to close the dialog. Now I'm back in the group dialog again. The good news is all the rooms are assigned. The bad news is that the group members aren't assigned their own names. Instead, they're all called after the group. Let's change that now. With Protel, you can easily change the names, even for a large group of guests. Before we get started, we need to decide whether we want to permanently store the guest profiles we're about to set up. If I only want to use the profiles once, I simply activate the Rooming List check button in the left-hand corner. That means that all these profiles will be automatically deleted once the group's accounts have been fully settled. I then double-click the first entry to access a special version of the Navigator that is designed to alter names. In the bottom right-hand corner, Protel shows us exactly where in the guest list we are at the moment. This is especially useful with extremely long guest lists. Now this is the first name out of 4 that we want to alter. Keep an eye on this corner while we enter all the names one after another. I'll start with the first name. And then I use the page down key to work down the entire list. Do you see the status bar at the bottom? 4 out of 4. We're done. By the way, it's not a problem if you have to interrupt your work on a guest list like this. Once you've entered a name and left the field, Protel saves the data so you won't lose it again. I click OK to exit the Navigator. In the group dialog, we can take another look at the guests with the proper names and their assigned rooms. We're done. I now close all the open dialogs by pressing a series of escapes. So, our group is ready for now. However, we've got a lot of other things to do. Join me in part 2 of the tutorial to learn how to use a joint account to administer a group's revenues easily and reliably. Now thank you for having joined me today.